Well, it's really about 10 seconds to go. But Ron, David, okay. Welcome to the Campus-Wide Leadership Series. As you know, First Fridays belong to us. I'm Robert Klein. I'm Associate Dean for Professional Development and Faculty Affairs in the School of Medicine. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest for today, Edward Honesty, Jr. Believe it or not, he just told me he was a practicing attorney for 20 years, and I asked him when he changed his name. So, but I can't think of a better name for anyone than honesty. Honesty and integrity are important in leadership, and Mr. Honesty represents all of that. You've got his long biography and pictures of the bread that comes out of his, what was it, single line soft roll? Single line soft roll, okay.
We'll talk about that.
It rolls off the lips when you remember what the line is. Dr. Patricia Thomas recommended that we have Mr. Honesty join us for the leadership series, and she fondly refers to him as the bun man. So he has a fascinating story. It's a journey, and how he ended up here in Kansas City, Kansas. He owns Best Harvest Bakeries, and I think the most important thing in reading his biography, people talk about giving back to the community. And I think Mr. Honesty is a role model in terms of giving back. Could you please welcome Mr. Honesty?
Oh, thank you very much. No kind of necessary. You know, there's a little saying I have. One thing I'm going to take off on what you said before we get really into it. You know, is it a nice name for a lawyer named Honesty? Cooler name. I went to law school, this is no joke, with a guy named Jeff Swindler. And he's in Nebraska now. We took the bar, and he was a row behind me or two because it was alphabetical. And we both passed first try, and that was great. And he's somewhere in Nebraska. If I ever find him, I'm going to go back into practice with him again. And I'd love to have that law firm. You're going to take my picture. I just need one with a bottle of water because I have so many with the vodka glass, and that's great. Thank you. So, yeah, you know, you're correct. We make buns, but as I like to say, we make a little bread because we need the dough at Best Harvest. Now, because I'm all over the place, there's a thing that I like to do. It's called my lighthouse. It anchors me, and I'm going to share it with you, kind of a very personal thing, something you may have heard of before, but it's a poem, and it's called Invictus, and it goes like this, and it'll relate to what we're going to talk about today, so it's not a total digression. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud, and under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but I'm bowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horrors of the shade, and through the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am master of my fate. I am captain of my soul. You know, when I have times of uncertainty and despair, I go back to that. I call it my lighthouse. It is my beacon. It guides me into safe waters. It guides me to a place where I need to be. And everybody has challenges in their life. You have them. You know, I even one of these sessions talked about stress management and wellness. You know, stress, what is that? To me, worrying about things you cannot control. So I try to control the things that I can and not worry about other stuff that is other people's problems, other people's issues, and keep that little bit of Invictus in me. It seems to work. You know, one thing I want to get through at the outset, you know, this is not about me. This is really about a team of people. I have a wonderful partner, Robert Beavers, and if I was bold enough to try to fiddle with this, I try to get that website up with Beavers Holdings. But if you care to, check out Beavers Holdings, BeaversHoldings.com, and that will give you my resource, my mentors, my partners, and it is a group of 7 companies, several of which I have an interest in, equity interest in. So we're more than just baking. We try to do a lot of food. We do food service support for quick service, casual dining restaurants, straws, napkins, meat, headquartered in Chicago. and Woodridge, Illinois, outside of Chicago. So having said all of that, that is really the things that make up me. And you know, I like to think that we're all kind of turtles on a flagpole. What do you say when you see a turtle on a flagpole? He didn't get there by himself. I didn't get here by myself, had a lot of help from a lot of people through educational years, on through career years, and now through the entrepreneurial years of the business, and that's still growing and evolving. So let's just try and cover it in that sequence, a little bit of my story, and then we'll weave into that some of the concepts that I've come upon that I like to share with people that help me, and maybe they don't help you, but it gives you some validation probably what you're already thinking, what you already feel, what you already experience. But I'm from Chicago, and I went to a high school in Chicago. Wouldn't necessarily call it low income, a middle or low income mixed. But the thing about the school was it had 3 times its capacity. It had 3 divisions, and say a school's built for 1,000 kids, we had over 3,000 students going to that high school. It really was a blessing because it made me a big fish in a small pond. I got credit for just being a decent human being, not a gangbanger, and doing my homework. Recognized by my principal, because my guidance counselor never talked to me about colleges or anything like that. And my principal kind of recognized me because my last 2 years of high schools, I went from a failure notice as my freshman year in chemistry, because I didn't know my valences. I know to this day aluminum is +3. You know, I've learned that since then. And to straight A's my last 2 years. So my principal remarked about it and said, "Where are you thinking about going to school? Let me talk to you. Can I write your recommendation for you?" Why, sure. And indeed, he wrote me a recommendation. I did that standard thing of applying to the big deal school, dream school, a sure fit, and then a one that, you know, that was kind of what you thought was an even match in the middle. And lo and behold, I got accepted to a university on the East Coast called Yale. Had no idea. First time I've been on a plane, first generation. My sister's 14 years older than me. She probably wouldn't be having me saying that, but she's in Chicago, my darling sister, and she went to school, college at a community college in the Chicago area. I was the first one to go away. And it was all my parents and my sisters with parents who did not graduate high school who encouraged me to get an education. Yale experience kicked my butt. I could not spell calculus, but I took it. We used to do German in high school because I was weird and wanted to take German and not Spanish and French, what everybody else was doing. And we do a chapter a month. At Yale, they went about a chapter a day in German. And so I had to drop those 2 courses, that calculus and German, and I focused on what I could do best, writing and reading. I knew I wanted to get as much education as I possibly could. Didn't have any idea about economists, and I wasn't good at science and math, so the medical industry was out, you know. So I used the business practice that I still employ to this day. I guess I befriended a young lady who is now my wife, who is a physician, and tried to, you know, you don't get it delegated. Get somebody else that does it for you. You know, I'm not that great at numbers today, so I keep good accountants around me all the time, controllers, CFOs, and bookkeepers. But I learned at Yale that poem, Invictus. And I learned at Yale to begin to compete and control those things which I can. And maybe I'm not as smart as the next guy, but I sure have as many hours in a day as that next guy has. And I can hustle as hard. And I can read it again. And I can work as hard as the next person. And those became the kind of the foundational things in my life in terms of putting forth the effort and getting in somebody's face and talking about it that I tried to leverage into the next phase of my career. So what am I thinking? Well, get as much education as you can. Yale had a blind admissions policy. They got me in with loans and financial aid and all that good stuff. But I knew college wasn't enough. I'm good at reading and writing, so not exposed to a whole lot of things. But hey, how about being a lawyer? Wonderful. I applied to law schools. Didn't get accepted into some of the ones that I wanted to go to, but having gone to Yale, I knew I wanted to go to what I thought was a top shelf law school. So Northwestern waitlisted me. And I went and interviewed there a couple of times and asked them to move me from the B waiting list to the A waiting list. Well, luckily enough, I wrote a paper in college, my senior essay. Never mind what it was international politics, economics. It was my political science was my major. And I got an A in that because I did a whole lot of effort on it. It was over 100 pages, took all semester. And that got me 4 A's worth of credit, which took my grade point average from a C to a B. And the Northwestern young lady recognized that, plus the fact that I had harassed her quite a bit. You know, went and physically saw her 2 times, called her on the phone, asking, begging to get into the law school there. And they never gave me a formal acceptance to Northwestern. You know, what they did was someone else didn't apply. A true story, nothing up my sleeve. Someone else didn't show up that said they were going to come. And I showed up the day of registration for law school. And they said, oh, we thought you might show up, so we got a spot for you. You admit it. And I was in Memphis with my girlfriend, now wife, and I said, I got to leave. I'm going to go because I'm going to show up in Northwestern just to see if I can get in the day of registration. And I did. So I started out behind. You know, I kind of hit the ground running. Everybody else had their books, their classes. I told my mom, told her, hey, Mom, I got admitted to law school. Her concern was, well, how are we going to pay for that? I said, don't worry, I'm going to get loans or whatever I need to do, and I'll work it out, and I'll work during school. And I did that. And in 3 years at Northwestern, I grew to publish an article in what was then called the Black Law Journal. Had some wonderful experiences, made some wonderful friends, had some crazy experiences, some negative experiences. I don't need to go into a lot of that, but it made me begin to realize that I controlled my fate. I had an opportunity. If I hadn't made that decision to show up the day of registration and face that humiliation, I would have never gotten into that school. And I might have gone someplace else, did something else, or maybe not even gone to law school at all. I always had a big concern, and I admire people who are able to work and go to school, because I ever thought, and it's true, difficult to go to school now. If I ever had a taste of money and paying rent, how hard it is to go back and continue your education. So I envy folks and respect them that are able to do that. So 3 years in Northwestern Law School, working summers and working during the school year. I was very, very fortunate to get interviewed at a company called McDonald's. And went there with 3 other guys, and we're looking at each other as we're interviewing, and we're all interviewing for what we thought was the same spot. Luckily, they hired all 3 of us. And just a little fast forward real quick, one of those fellows now is Chief Operating Officer of McDonald's, Jim Johannesson. We started together the same day. Another gentleman, Bob Schweitzer, is Assistant General Counsel at McDonald's. And one of the directors that I interviewed with is now General Counsel, Gloria Santona. So I maintained a great relationships and great friends. My niche at Mickey D's was terminating franchises. You can imagine me coming to see you if you had cold French fries, dirty bathrooms. I was the guy that told you, hey, we talked about buns yet, have we? We'll get there. I was the guy that told you, hey, we've reached a corner. You got to make a turn. Either correct the problems or get out or war. Now, no big deal. I won cases because I settled the ones I did. You remember hot coffee? I got involved after that. Just a little digression, a little side note. There might have been 14 beverage burn cases before that Stella Liebeck hot coffee case, maybe you're too young to remember hot coffee, occurred. But once that case hit the media, in the first 3 months, we got 247 of them. So much for lawyers. And it even ranged from people, parents, believe it or not, boyfriends of single moms pouring hot tea on a kid and making a claim. You know, just crazy stuff. And everything, sex, money, and murder that you could think of, and we can talk about that. I'll leave that for questions. On the McDonald's thing I saw, we managed litigation. I became managing counsel of the Great Lakes Division, kind of a mini general counsel. Things switched up, changed quite a bit there. And then I met a man, and this is going to a defining moment in my life. So if I had a drum roll, I would ask for it now, named Jeff Kindler, who became my boss, a year younger than me. Now, you guys don't follow business news and all this stuff. Jeff Kindler became CEO of Pfizer, manufacturers of Viagra. I don't know why I bring that up, why that's in my head, but that's one of the things. I think they do some other very popular drugs out too. Jeff Kindler sat down with me, and I can say this because it's true, I guess. I'm trying to think of liable or whatever. But sat down with me and made commitments, promises, and statements. If I did A, B, and C, I would be promoted within this organization. McDonald's, I want to be an assistant vice president, I want to be an officer. Did those things, and on the eve of Christmas Eve, he said, no, things have changed, we're not going to do that. Now remember, Invictus, right? I'm the master of my fate, I'm the captain of my soul. Sat down with him, reached into my pocket, pulled out 2 Cuban cigars because there was an assistant general counsel there who had said he would support me for a promotion, and I handed them both the cigars, but they did have a strange reaction. Now, I've been there 16 years at McDonald's, never once, I'm going to tell it like it is, played the race card, never once got out of character, never once did anything aggressive, was always appropriate corporate demeanor. And what's going to prove that is what I'm going to tell you the next segue. And they jumped back as if, I was going for a gun. I said, guys, what's the matter? I said, I understand. It is what it is. Hey, I want to wish you both happy holidays. And I gave them Cuban cigars because I just finished a trip to the Bahamas. It was about the 20th anniversary of that with my brother-in-law. We go to Bahamas every year, play golf, and do a lot of stupid stuff. Getting too old for it now, but he is too. But we still enjoy to have great friends down there. And they calmed down, took the cigars. And interestingly enough, the head of security, sometime this was the eve of Christmas Eve, the 23rd, and the head of security in January saw me, a fellow who I helped with writing some memos and doing some things and worked with him. And he still works at McDonald's in the security capacity, although he's not head anymore. He told me, say, hey, Ed, what was going on with that meeting you had just around the holiday time? I said, what do you mean, Winston? I had a meeting. He says, yeah, but it's the weirdest thing. They asked us to have security around the meeting. They knew that they were going to give me some disappointing news, but they wanted security there in case I overreacted or did something aggressive. Now, I was half the man I used to be. I wasn't as big and much less intimidating, but it just shocked me and really disappointed me that they thought that of me. Well, Kindler was a new guy. He had come from GE. And the other thing that Winston told me, I'm trying to reach down and try to say this without being too, I don't tell a whole lot of people this, but I'm going to let you guys in on it. I don't know why, but I just feel like it today because I'm a little bit beyond it. So the other thing that they did was they had us call the Oak Brook, McDonald's is headquartered in Oak Brook, Illinois, the Oak Brook Police Department. So not only was I going to get in trouble with the security and all that to restrain me, I was going to, as they say in my old neighborhood, catch a case publicly with the police department. You know what that does to a lawyer, what that does to a corporate career, 16 years down the tube. Well, then I decided that I had to take care of me. And that's the reason why I'm telling you. Then I realized that Invictus was a lighthouse for me, and I had to take care of me. And then I believed in 3 things that I now can formulate and call being hip. And it's called honor, integrity, persistence. This is what I tell kids. In business, buns, a lot of people feel they're a commodity. What they might buy, we have a different kind of a customer service niche. I'll tell you a little bit about that. We're going to get there. I'm just watching the clock. I got about 40 more minutes. We're cool. And it gives you a chance to ask some questions. They might buy buns, but when they look at me, what are they buying? They're buying me. They're buying an organization. You're selling yourself. That's why you kind of engage in community service. Kind of a little bit of a selfish, karma, Machiavellian, if you will, motive to engage in community service. But you want to meet people in the context of not as a bun guy, but in the context of Ed honestly doing community service, working for the Chamber of Commerce, working for LIST, Local Initiative Support Corporation, chaired that for about 6 years, working for Power, being on the Starlight Board. Prep KC is one that I really enjoy being on now, and I'm a UMKC trustee. and enjoy tying in the whole education thing because, see, as I told you, I went to a high school 3 times its capacity. I didn't tell you that I had kids shot in the locker next to me because he had went home and beat up some kid, and the father of the kid came and didn't go through the administration, and he beat up the father. Marvin was a big, intimidating fellow. And so the kid went home, got a gun, and shot Marvin, standing in the locker next to me. And that was kind of my environment. And I realized that it was up to me a bit to overcome that, not succumb to it. But I also realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur with this whole experience at McDonald's. Now, my career at McDonald's was outstanding, spectacular, wonderful. And the world is round. Everything that goes around comes around in multiples. If you follow business circles, you look at Fortune magazine, make a note, there's a huge article, over 150 interviews that they engaged in to develop a story on this fellow, Jeff Kindler. And he crashed and burned at Fortune, at Pfizer, unbelievable. They summarily fired him, the board did, on a Sunday because of his misrepresentations, his undermining the trust in his people, and his failure to produce earnings per share, which is the bottom line. And in the business world, you know, you get a report card every month. It's called a financial statement. And publicly traded, you get earnings per share, and that's gets to be a little quarterly thing that they look at. The analysts do anyway, and the investors. But in any event, that was some consideration for me and validation that I wasn't all wrong, that this guy actually was a bad guy. But I had the opportunity and encouragement then to say, well, what else do I want to do in this McDonald's career? Because as far as I knew then, Kindler was a year younger than me. I was not going to grow. He told me that. Cool. So what do I do about it? Do I sit and moan about him and what's going on and I'm a victim and blah, 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 blah? No, I developed a plan for me to maximize my potential and do what I want to do as a human being. What do I want to do as a human being? I am jazzed by the fact I love and embrace the opportunity to treat people like I want to be treated. Like I would want to be treated. We have 50 employees at Best Harvest. Beavers Holdings has even more. And I am able to deal with people with honor, integrity, and persistence. You know, honor is treat people like you want to be treated. Integrity, be a person of your word. Persistence, never give up. So, I am at McDonald's in year 16 of the 20-year career, and I embark on a 3-pronged plan. Easiest path, just like I said about the colleges. Go and apply and go to a smaller franchising organization, become a general counsel and an officer there. Smaller franchising organization that values your McDonald's experience more than McDonald's values your McDonald's experience. I had a great career there. I don't want to shadow it with all the Kindler experience. There's a whole lot of delightful friends that I still maintain. As I said, chief operating officer and assistant general counsel and I, you know, we started the same generation. And my retired general counsel and I play golf once a year out in his home in Desert Mountain, Arizona. Boy, when I grow up, I still have ambitions to achieve. So go be general counsel someplace else. 2, go into operations at McDonald's and maybe become a franchisee. That's a younger man's game. Kids and cash, very, very difficult. It seems like it's on autopilot, but it ain't. Trust me, it ain't. Or become like my friend Jim Johannesson, regional manager, grow up through the corporate ranks at McDonald's. But remember, I'm already been kind of burnt out with the corporate scene for what I've been through in the legal department. 3, dream job, the Yale of my business career, become a supplier. Buy into a business, figure out how I can do that, and be in an environment where I can treat people like I want to be treated. For 2 years, I undertook that effort. I ran a distant second to a Super Bowl champ, Chicago Bear, all-pro guy, Dave Duerson, who makes sausages in Kenosha, Wisconsin. It's unfortunate you've heard subsequently that Dave Duerson, if you follow these things, committed suicide and donated his body to the NFL. You know, they say that brain injuries from the Bears, but they wanted an athlete, a guy who carried the ball, not a guy who carried a book, you know, back in those days. And that was okay. But I got noticed honor, treat people like you want to be treated, integrity. Remember I talked about the last one, persistence. They didn't commit to me at Northwestern, but I showed up the day of registration. That changed my life. Having the cojones to face that embarrassment of not getting in and that long bus ride home. But I kept at it, and I stayed in the hunt. And then this fellow named Bob Beavers, who was 20 years on the board of directors of McDonald's when I came, started as a $1 an hour management trainee person because it was a McDonald's next to where his girlfriend, now his wife of some 40 years, lived. He decided to retire and become a supplier to McDonald's Corporation. He called me up one day, asked me to join hands with him, become his partner, and we're going to go find a deal to become suppliers to McDonald's. Best Harvest Bakeries was formed. Took us 2 years to get it going, but again, that's how those deals come to pass. Best Harvest Bakeries was formed in 1999. We bought a turnkey operation, current entrepreneurial career now, in case we're not tracking me. Turnkey operation in Kansas City, Kansas, 530 South 65th Street. I came into that business as an attorney. I knew that, how do you make that transition, Edward? I knew that I would now have the blessing to treat people like I want to be treated. And I commit to you that if during those first 5 years, maybe even 8 of my 12 years, that if my car broke down, I would get out of my car and run to the bakery. Now, the last 12 years, time and gravity, those two immutable forces, I'd probably call a cab and go to the bakery, ride the tow truck in. But in any event, loved that place, loved the people, got in and wore the white uniform and got on the floor. And I wasn't learning the manufacturing process as much, a little bit, but I was learning the people, who were strong, who were going to be the management people of the future, and treating them like I wanted to be treated. I enjoy and I appreciate the fact that I think I managed that organization more from a basis of respect than fear. A little bit of fear. They ain't all that bad, because they got to have a little bit of fear. People got to know that there's an abyss over there, the line that they maybe should not cross because they want to keep their jobs. But I'm able to promote those guys who want to grow. I'm able to be honest in conversations with people who aren't fulfilling our expectations. And the coolest part to me, one of the cooler parts to me, I think the coolest is treating people like I want to be treated. I don't want to digress from that or move from that. But one of the cool things to me is to take people and look at our team and even myself and say, I'm strong here, I'm weak there. Let me leverage my strengths. Let me find resources and support to shore up the opportunities. I'll say weaknesses, say opportunities. So that's what we do day in, day out, and we manage the bakery business. We now, Bob and I, share equity in a few of them, but he has, of a total, beaversholdings.com, 7 organizations that we operate. And we both leverage our McDonald's expertise and experience in doing that. What does Best Harvest do, guys? Well, as I told you, we make a little bread because we need the dough. We produce hamburger buns exclusively. Nothing, I'm sorry. You had all cakes and cupcakes and pies, and I was going to bring those things. Nope, just hamburger buns. If you're in Kansas, Missouri, or Nebraska, and you've had a hamburger bun from McDonald's, who has? Oh, God, I should have had that. Anybody have a McDonald's hamburger? Okay, how about Burger King in just the Kansas, Wichita area, and a little bit of Missouri? Okay, it's made at Best Harvest. Did I say that loud enough? It's made at Best Harvest. Beginning in May, we will make Wendy's for Kansas and Nebraska, Omaha, Platte, Nebraska markets. Yep, we'll have all 3. That's sort of evolution in itself. We have a little time, I'll talk about that transition, because we had to lose some McDonald's to get the Burger King and the Wendy's in place. And boy, you talk about it, there was a lot of nights of Invictus on that thing, because that was, I looked at my business going away. But we're coming out of the storm, and now we're looking at doing some additional stuff, as well as acquiring some other bakery assets, which will take our size 5-fold. We'll be a 3-bakery organization by mid-year. Working on that as we speak. This is my break to come talk to you guys a bit. So those were the things that kind of compelled me. Bob and I got together. We bought Best Harvest. I have a wonderful team of people there, Salt of the Earth Midwesterners, who sometimes, it's interesting, aren't as type A as I am. You know, I've always been one of you heard the third promotion, grow, opportunity, looking for the next deal, looking for the next thing, and that keeps me going. I mean, that's my food for my spirit and my soul and my entrepreneurial side anyway. I've learned, and I still learn, that there are some people who don't share in that. So not to be like I don't want to use Jeff Kelly. I don't want to beat him up too much because he's, you know, he is what he is. God bless him. But not to be so negative. There are people who I call them anchors. You know, I use that little lighthouse analogy that steers you. But there are people who anchors. Hey, I'm a supervisor or I'm a production line worker, and I don't really want to be in management. I respect that. But what I do try to communicate to them, again, treat you like I would want to be treated, is you understand that if you take that position, you may not necessarily grow in the organization, and somebody younger than you may pass you up and make more money. Now, if you want change and you want to do some other things, let's talk about how you get on that track. You got to demonstrate it. You know, put your actions where your words are. But understand that the commitment is to the growth of the organization, not to you, not to me. Guys, the objective here for me is to be multi-generational. I've seen businesses in my family and others where the business goes away. When you say these entrepreneurs, you know, got my picture up here, it's about me. It's not about me. I wish we'd had a picture of Best Harvest up there because that's what it's about. I have 2 kids, one 26 boy and a girl, 23, and they're lovely kids. My daughter's 2 years out of college. She wants to be in journalism and make documentary films, and she's working on a little volunteer project. I am nudging her to get a full-time job, and we're going to have that conversation this weekend where Daddy begins to put some limitations on the allowance. You know, get off the payroll, sweetie. It's time. You know, I know the economy's tough, but it's getting better. You know, I want to see you do something. If you're going to get your job at McDonald's, you know, do something else. You know, this one little documentary project, and she's done a wonderful job with that. But she's interviewing and trying to get opportunities. But, you know, you got to be aggressive. And unfortunately, unlike me, you know, I walked without a net. You know, it was just either me or the abyss. And if I didn't do it, nobody's going to do it for me. My kids are blessed. You know, when I come back, I want to be like my kids because they got me and my physician wife to kind of fall back on. So they're not necessarily as motivated. They're not necessarily as aggressive. But there are ways we can work around it. They're very smart, and they got much more aptitude than I have when I was their age. My son works in our organization up in Woodridge, up in Chicago, which is our first home. And he does sales and marketing, has closed some tremendous deals, created some joint venture partnerships. He's 26. Now, how do you like this for a lifestyle? I'm gonna throw them under the bus a little bit. Last night there was a concert here, Drake. Anybody familiar with that? Know about that? You know, okay. Somebody's hip. They know about that. Drake. He's a big hip hop artist. I call it hip hop, not necessarily rap artist, and very, very popular now. So my daughter comes in from D.C. My son comes in. He can more or less, and they're spending the weekend with us. You know, Mom want to come see you and had a Kansas City break, but Mom has a friend at the Sprint Center, one of our organizations, who was able to get us tickets. You know, we pay for them at face value, but at least don't have to pay scalpers prices. So they all went to the concert last night. You know, no pretense about it. They come in, they tell they want to see Mom and Dad. They want to go to the concert, but that's fine. So they got to do that. So I have my kids with me, all the birds in the nest this weekend. And I'll sit down with them and take the temperature and make sure they're doing the right track. I stay closer to my son because he's in the organization a bit. But my daughter, we got to have this conversation. We'll have to impart some of this sense of urgency on her. You know, there are always challenges. There's always things. You guys have it in your families, I'm sure, you know. So I understand. It ain't all, you know, there's always something. Especially when you're type A personality, you're always looking for some opportunity to improve. Here's what happened, though, at Best Harvest. When I came there, it was like Chinese to me, the whole baking business. But the overriding concept that I began to gain was that, you know, I'm from a lawyer background where I grew into a career where it was more than just doing a good job. It was more about being liked as you proceed in management ranks. Didn't like that as much. I liked doing a good job and just leaving it at that and being judged by that. And everything in the legal business is gray area. More likely, less probable, reasonable doubt, unreasonable this, what's fair, In the production business, to me, it's black and white. Now, a lot of people will argue with that, and it really isn't. But it's all relative, right? From my perspective, being a lawyer to being in the production business, the bun is spec or it's not spec. The machine is running or it's not running. If it's not running, can you fix it? Let's get somebody who can fix it, and let's get it running. And the other piece is, the other area that I've grown more than any other is, this production environment is all about metrics and numbers. Remember, I was the guy that didn't want to do numbers. I did words and writing and reading, and I stayed away from that calculus and dropped out. But now I am just Mr. Math. It's the basic math, but it's still Mr. Math. And I have to worry about, are we wrapping dozens per hour, 3,000 dozen an hour? We're trying to produce now about 16 million dozen buns a year. We have a capacity up to 22, so Wendy's going to take another 2 million dozen. That brings us up to 18. I'm going to expand the Burger King market. I'm working on going down to Orlando to talk to those guys, Coral Gables, on Wednesday to talk to them about expanding that market. That'll take another 1.5 million dozen. And we got about 2 million dozen left. 19.5, we can do 22, so 2 million dozen left. And I'm on the sales cycles list for another casual dining chain. I won't say them because we don't have a contract or anything with them. But you've heard of them. They hop around and they have insects mixed with fruit, apples, bees and stuff like that. Anyway, but so that's there's an opportunity for us there with Dine Equity. You know what's cool though? Treating people like you like to be treated. There was this young guy, young attorney. And I was, believe it or not, running 20 Ks and swimming and playing a lot of tennis back then. I was half the man I am now, physically. And this young fellow came and I befriended him. And Brian was a young attorney at McDonald's, and we hung out. And we had an annual thing that we did around the holidays where we would go and have a long lunch. I never would drink at lunch. We didn't do that back then. People probably don't do it now either. I know certainly you guys don't. But I could count on the 20-year McDonald's career on one hand, and I don't even do it now as president of the organization. It's just not my thing. After work, fine, we'll have a cocktail. But Brian and I would go have a beer, and we would intentionally have couple of beers, and they say, okay, we can't go back now. Can't go back to the office. We'd call in, hey, we're the rest of the day off. It was near the holidays. And then we would go to Hooters and hang out in downtown Chicago. Sometimes see a movie. Yeah, it had to be Hooters. That was it. That was our entertainment. I confess. I'm, scandalous that way. This kid, Brian Adele, he's now general counsel of Dine Equity. So I told you about Applebee's. He called me up when he came to Kansas City because they have a big presence here. They're also in a headquarters here, Dine Equity. And they also have a headquarters out in the West Coast because that's where the people who bought them live, and that's where they want to be. Californians love California, not me. But Brian and I began to talk, and I'm not selling him, right? Because we're finding out about what's going on. His kids, my kids. I remember Jake, and he remembers Edward. He didn't know Lauren that well, but my daughter. And I then began to tell him, I said, well, we have a hedging program, Brian. We started talking about commodities market, other thing, math. We have a hedging program, where we buy flour 2 years in advance or a year and a half in advance. And we kind of stay underneath market prices, and we pass that savings on to our customers. And Brian says, really? We don't do anything like that. I said, oh, hell, well, you dealt with us, you'd have something like that. But I don't want to, come on, man, have another beer, and let's not even worry about that. I'm not trying to, let's just hang out. He says, no, Ed, give me your card. I got your information, but I need your card to hang around. In fact, give me 3 cards. And Brian knows me, knows nothing about buns, knows nothing about Best Harvest, but this one hedging program that we have and our commodities purchasing and our what we call glass pipeline, our transparency with our customers, got him interested in us. And again, I am treating Brian like I want to be treated, like I would want him to treat me. He'd come to Kansas City, let's go hang out. And I really didn't have a sales opportunity or anything like that in mind with him because I know the supply chain management people there. We've contacted them. I'm just dealing with my old buddy who happens to be general counsel. And lo and behold, what I didn't know was in the DineEquity organization, supply chain management reports to the general counsel at his level. He's the boss. And so I get a call and we get inspected by them. And so we're in line now when their sales cycle. The other thing you got to deal with dealing with your customers, they have contracts with people. Wait till their contracts expire, then they put out RFPs. So when their sales cycle comes up, I'm hopeful sometime this year, we'll have an opportunity to fill that other 2 million dozen capacity. Now, got a little time. Theme of nobody makes it without help. We have a CFO, a guy by the name of Steve Romberg, who's been a great friend of mine now, of a new friend, a great mentor. He doesn't know it because we give each other crap every time we see one another because I went to Northwestern, he went to University of Chicago. Very bright guy. I mean, run rings around me in terms of the math thing. And he's a CPA. But we tease one another and have gained a mutual respect. And he began to talk to me about strategic stuff. Because it just so happened that he ran his route, had a similar experience with that I did with Kindler, and grew an organization from, I guess, $1 million level to $1 billion level. And it also happened to be a McDonald's supplier at the time. So he's brought that expertise and that level of vigor to our organization. We begin to talk about strategically, how do we spread our organization geographically across the United States as if a smile. You know, in business, Ray Kroc had a saying, either you're green or you're growing, if you're ripe, you rot. And that is certainly true for us. If this harvest stays like it is, there it is. Good. Surprise. Beaver's holding his best, that's us. And one single bakery organization sounds nice, but eventually the competition will overtake you because what is the one thing everybody talks about on the TV commercials? Quality. But it's the one thing that customers, and they're just like you and I are, what is the one thing we're looking for? When we go out to buy something, what is the one thing we look for? It's a little tag on your sleeve. What is it? Price, right? And how do you keep the prices competitive? How do you keep the prices low? You guys don't know this, but this is my world. Bimbo, out of, they say Mexican City, but it's really Bogota, Colombia. Say that for a reason. Is a huge bakery organization. They just built a new bun plant, state of the art. Remember I said we built in '84 with 3,000 dozen an hour, single line. That's a reason for that. It sounds cool, but it sucks because you're single line. That means you only make one thing one time. Single line soft roll bakery. Bimbo built in Topeka a 5,000 to 6,000 dozen an hour bun plant and a huge loaf bread plant. Now, there's some distinctions that we have I could share if we get into the time of that. But the thing is, what you look at with Bimbo is, with 6,000 dozen versus 3,000 dozen, you have the same number of people pretty much running them because it's the same system, it's just bigger pans. And their cost, however, I want to get this without going too much into a business school class. I just jazzes me because these are the things I learned. Their cost, however, per dozen is lower because they're producing more dozens at the same labor rate. Twice as much as we are at the same labor rate. So their costs are cut in half. Well, the disadvantage they have is that they're a huge organization. They have a lot of vice presidents. You're talking to the president. There are no vice presidents. This is it. So we're a lot leaner. Meaner. I just like to say that in the context of something about me being leaner. So we're able to be price competitive. We got another niche that we do that they don't do, customer service, which we learned from our McDonald's background. I took a McDonald's store restaurant manager and made him our customer service rep. So he goes into restaurants, fixes the toasters, works with the store managers. Then I said, you know what? You're great, Dana, but what are most of the employees out here in these restaurants looking like? He says, sí, Eduardo. They're not necessarily like us, Black American, Dana's white American. They're Hispanic, they're brown Americans. So we went out and hired a young lady, Melissa Wise, who's very fluent in Spanish, and made her customer service too. And she's a neat kid. Got her right out of school and trained her, and she's going great guns. Loves the independence, loves going out. So I have people going out to the restaurants, checking our burgers, making sure, buns, making sure that we got across-the-counter quality, and working with store managers, giving them reports on where they do that. The competition doesn't do that. So it's another way we distinguish ourselves. But inevitably, if I don't grow, if Best Harvest doesn't grow, if Beaver's Holdings doesn't grow, these other companies will be more price competitive and able to take away our accounts, because if you're ripe, you're ripe. So strategically, what do I now spend my time? Remember I told you I used to put on the whites, and now that's my comfort zone now. Just hanging out in the bakery, messing around with the guys, buying them lunch, finding out what's going on, hanging out on the floor, and talking to them about things. I've charged them with becoming more and more entrepreneurial. Think like I think, guys. You see an opportunity, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Go do it. Treating people like I want to be treated. Again, now we run into that type A and those anchors and those sales, I call it. The guys who want to grow and the guys who just want to keep on. Some of people don't have an appetite for that. So you got to recognize that. So I try to choose my team, make a great management team that want to step up and undertake these additional responsibilities. And it's working. It's working. We have these additional customers. We ranked number 1, 2 with our Burger King business right out the box. We've just been working with them for just a year, and we're already being considered their bun authority over these other bakeries, because I want to say what they say, but they're going to come up with a thing. They want to be QSR authority, quick service restaurant. See, food is neither fast nor slow, but the service is quick, so quick service is what we learn to say. But we work with them and try to demonstrate how we bring value above and beyond the big guys. But at the same time, we have to become as resourceful with spreading out our fixed costs as the big guys. Because bottom line, we all want to make more money. So if I'm going to pay myself more, I got to have more business. And a physical machine has only so much capacity. And I just can't keep raising prices. I have to somehow spread costs to keep prices down. And the only way to spread costs is to build capacity. And the only way to build capacity is to get outside of our 4 walls. Therefore, we're embarked on a planned process now, which is very confidential, so why am I telling to you? I'm not telling you. I'm going up to that line. To expand our bakery assets where we will increase our size 5-fold. David is going out to swallow Goliath. And we have some great banking relationships. Again, treating people like I want to be treated. I was one of the, Best Harvest was one of the top 10 small businesses. And I was pleased to sit on a panel and meet some folk. And they heard me talking much as you guys are today. And a young fellow turned out to be a banker. And this bank has now, it's a local bank in Kansas, has stepped up and refinanced our debt, because we expanded our physical plant, refinanced our debt and took out Chase Bank. Big old Chase Bank of New York, Jamie Dimon's group. And that relationship really didn't grow out of, oh, Ed, your Best Harvest makes such wonderful buns. It grew out of a relationship built on honor, integrity, and persistence. Those things continue to pay off for me. I hope to continue to keep developing that. I'm coming up on 50 minutes to 10-minute mark. I'm going to try to save a little time for questions. If not, I'll babble some more. But that's it, guys. That's the journey. I'm giving you out the next phase. We want to increase our size 5-fold. Stay tuned. Hope that I can come back next year and tell you what that whole thing is like, taking different established cultures and trying to merge them, because that's going to be my challenge. We'll be president of that organization. And we'll see. We'll see. They got union agreements there, too. You have a union here? Am I saying something inappropriate? You have a union deal with you? Somebody knows about unions, just call me, talk to me about that, because I know nothing about that. But these new bakery assets we're going to acquire, they do have unions. Hey, I got to figure everybody's like everybody. They want to know what's in it for them, you know. And so how do you think I approach the unions? Just a quick question. I'm going to ask you a question. How do you think I'm going to approach the unions? What are going to be kind of my guideposts? What are going to be kind of my pillars. How am I going to deal with the unions? As a partner with honor, integrity, and persistence. That's it. And I think it's going to work out. Finds and she'll find me unafraid. So I'm going to go in there without trepidation. I'm going to go in there with respect and as a partner and figure out how we can make this thing work for both of us and ultimately for our customers. Because that's really what you got to look at. I mean, in an organization, you all have to continue to always think about what is best for the customer. And if it takes care of the customer, it takes care of the business, and the business takes care of you. All right. Got any questions? That was easy. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Oh, yeah, you're supposed to give her a microphone. Wait a minute. And I'm going to repeat what you say anyway. I've been told. I remember to do that.
I said, this isn't a question, this is a statement. I normally come, and I did earlier with my iPad lectures, stuff to read, because you never know what kind of lecture you're going to.
Yeah.
So I had a backup plan. I had like 3 sets of papers to read, my iPad
That's
here.
why I saw you back there texting.
But I literally had to physically go to a delivery, and I didn't touch my stuff. Your lecture was phenomenal.
Oh,
it was
wow.
so good that I came back. So I ran to a delivery, came back just to hear you. And if you look
what part
around,
did you
I
miss?
have nothing.
I'll just repeat it all. No, I don't do that. We gotta go work.
But if you notice, I have no iPad. I have no lecture. I wanted to hear you talk.
That's nice of you to say. Can I give you my wife's phone number? She specializes in tuning you out. Maybe that's after the vodka kicked in. I don't know. My wife has a different perception of me. No, I love her to death. We're cool.
I was going to ask an obvious question, but I think the whole 50 minutes has really been that. Your wife's a physician.
Yes.
And I was going to say, what similarities do you see between, she's a hospitalist, between medicine and Best Harvest Bakeries and the things you've done? But you could go back over your 50 minutes.
There's one huge one. And this is it. I try to tell her, God, don't stress out. It's in God's hands. They're circling the drain. I'm going to be careful when I say it. Let it go. It's God's will. You can't save them all. But she cares after all these several decades of medical stuff. And what I didn't say about law school is the first year of law school I went, and I was having that Yale experience where I was sucking at, getting it up to that next level. Then she got into medical school at Rush in Chicago. I started studying with her. I became a B student. Woo! You used a lot of time, a lot of effort in that. But she cares about her patients. And she was medical director. She was chief resident, but medical director in another type A. And she gave that up. $40,000 cut in pay, gave it up. I'm sorry, honey, I put your business in street. But she gave it up because she wanted to focus more on patient care and not the administrative of, you gave me this weekend and I had a weekend last month and I don't need it. You know that. All that herding jackrabbits on the flatbed. You know that those doctors all, and the nurse is going to say, amen, brother. Watch this. Doctors all think they're mini gods. You know what I mean? They just walk on, and imagine trying to manage them. My poor sister, the doc ain't feeling that. He's like, body language. But she cares about her patients. I care about my team, and I encourage them, and in turn, I encourage them to care about our customers. And the thing that I look at, is let's not lose a customer. And that's the big similarity. It's a very results-oriented business for me. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I got you next, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
With the demand for gluten-free products
Tough
kind of
one, huh?
increasing across the board, how do you see that impacting your business?
Next question, please. You are on to something. I noticed gluten-free on the boxes Marty showed me. Marty, you notice how I just walked right past that? Because I got a mental block. I'm not embracing that yet. I'm not mastering that fate yet. It's a big deal. And I just got a sample of some gluten-free cookies from people. They think, bakery business, going to make these cookies. The problem with it now is that it hasn't reached the level of mass commercial interest. It is still a niche market. It is not for a $3,000 dozen an hour guy to make, trying to get the 5,000, 6,000 dozen an hour, because there's not enough demand for it in the marketplace. I think it will evolve and get there. And the problem is, just like any new technology, the food technology is, it's expensive now. And McDonald's recognizes it. I should not talk about McDonald's and Burger King too much, because that's their, I shouldn't say too much. I'm on a confidentiality agreement with them. But they recognize it. They recognize the value of whole wheat. It's in the new, what you're going to see promoted, bakery-style bun that we make. It's a white whole wheat grain flour, 25%. We have separate 50-pound bags instead of truckloads and trainloads of the regular enriched flour that we use that. And we have a separate dump station that we had to make some investment in making it. I should say ingredient insertion station is dump station in the inside the four walls. So you're inside the four walls with me now, the bakery. But the cost is such that in this economy, people are looking for the 3 for $3.99 deal. They're not interested in paying an extra 50 cents, literally, for the sandwich. If you got it, you'll go ahead. Don't worry. You go do your thing. I already got my compliment. I don't care what you say. She left her iPad. Thank you for that. That's nice. It may make my day. But it's coming, and I think it'll be here. And let me tell you, I have a friend who's CEO of Truman. Can I say Truman Medical Center? John Bluford. You ever hear him? He is head of the whole American High. I'm so proud of Johnny B. I call him Big Johnny B. He likes that. I'm so proud of John Bluford. We share a fraternal organization together, so I see him once a month. He says, damn it, Ed, I got a McDonald's, and I want that McDonald's out of Truman. It's a McDonald's, and they poison the community, and blah, 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 blah. He sent me an op-ed article, and I read it, and I got back to him. I said, John, don't you realize that if McDonald's is not making the market's made McDonald's. The convenience of the drive-thru, the food safety aspect of not going to a corner mom and pop where sometimes you might get sick and the service is inconsistent and the quality is inconsistent. You don't know how long the ingredients have been around, and the traceability of issues. If people want and demand, and I encourage the consumers to do this. If you want it and you demand it, and people will provide it. And the thing is, the market forces that exist are kind of compelling us in a different direction. And they're doing it with kids, which is why kids advertising is so important. I'm kind of happy to see some of the things. You notice McDonald's no longer shows products in its Happy Meals, food products. They just do Ronald and Happy, Fun Life, Active Lifestyle, Move Sports and that kind of stuff. They took the actual sandwiches and fries off that, or they'll talk to you about apple dippers. Those types of pressures are great for the industry, because if McDonald's gets to the point, and we just use them because they're the biggest. They're not the bad guys. They're just the biggest ones, and they're the most well-known. But if McDonald's clearly understands that people will buy that gluten-free product, they'll be the first to make the heck out of it. They'll be the first to put pressure on suppliers and ingredient suppliers and the product suppliers like myself to get the cost down, to make it affordable and feasible for you. I think it's going to come. I think whole wheat will come. Whole grain is going to come first. That's a bit of a more healthier thing. Gluten-free has to do a little bit more with allergens. So you had a question I'm going to want to get to you. Did that kind of get to it with you? It's just expensive.
Hey, Mr. Honesty, thank you for coming and talking to us today. It's been great. My question has to do with your Invictus as your guiding principle. And, Invictus has a spiritual component to it, and it's not exactly biblical, but it's spiritual.
Yes, it is.
A lot of people have a guiding principle that they have kind of hung on to. But my question has to do with, if you were working with a young person and you and or they determined that there might be a need for a guiding principle, how would you point them to it if you could? What would be your suggestions? I mean, I know that you picked yours up from your literature background in school, but how would you advise somebody along that way?
Wow. Well, there are two levels, and one I stole from my wife. Another thing I believe in, stealing shamelessly. If something's good, don't be afraid to take it. We have a kind of I won't say adopted, he's not a formally adopted son, but he is a product of one of my good friends, our mothers, my mom, his mom, and this. My mom had a friend, they had babies together. I was one, Craig was the other. We took different paths, two guys who we tested the same way, but it turned out Craig had became a substance abuse guy, died from a heroin overdose. I considered him my cousin. He had a son before that happened. His wife, the son's mother, is also lost and is somewhere in Texas, we don't know where. This young man has grown up now. He's now moved to British Vancouver and went through a lot of problems and issues himself, as you could imagine. And he was talking to my wife one day about what his career goals ought to be. He's a nurse, but now he wants to be a screenwriter. But that's okay because he's got a lot of issues and he switches. He's got ADD, all kinds of stuff going on. But he's very, very bright because he became a emergency medical technician, then a registered nurse, and now he wants to be a screenwriter. He moved to British Vancouver to accomplish that. And that's how he rolls. And he tells you the day after he does these things. But he talks to my wife because they've bonded, and he's a wonderful fellow. And he's the only one that got me to go into Sidekicks there one evening on a Friday night. That was interesting, too. I went to that with him on a first Friday. I just had to make that digression because that was a growing experience for me, too. My wife told him, as a guiding principle, he says, Stephen, what do you like on your worst day? Not on your best day when everything's hunky-dory rosy because he's, I don't want to talk too much about him, but, the emotional issues that he has, ups and downs. But what do you like on your worst day? If I counsel somebody, I would tell them to gravitate to, focus on, and think about when you're at your worst, what is it that you enjoy in the midst of all that? Where's the light in the midst of all that darkness? The other thing that I would tell them, and this is kind of hokey, but I found some truth in it. There's a book called and I'm not trying to be religious here because I do not attend church. I try to shoot that 102 golf game on Sundays. But the tenets of Christianity, the meaning of Christianity, I forget what the name of the guy who wrote that was. He talked about the cardinal virtues. Justice, fortitude, which is persistence. Justice is just a balance, it's a little bit of a karma thing. But then prudence and temperance. Nothing really to excess. And I try to grapple and work on that when I want that extra double cheeseburger, when I want that extra cocktail, and it's something I struggle with. So nobody's perfect at it. But those are the things. And then I tell them mostly what I try to do is control that which you can, understand things that are outside your control, and let them go. My wife and I have an ongoing discussion. You have patience, sweet young lady, sweet old guy who, you do the best you can, and you might still lose them. And I don't know how that sits with you. But my wife, she still takes it hard after all these years. And the challenge becomes how you go with that with grace, because we in Western society, we believe death is a bad thing. Other societies don't go into that as much. They think it's just a part of life. We weren't here when we started here, and then we're not here when we leave here, so it's okay. But just to have that capacity to recognize and identify those things that are beyond your control and to let them go. And to really focus on those things that you can control, like what time I need to get up in the morning to get to work, and embrace that. So if that kind of helps, that's how I would counsel somebody. That's kind of what I do. Okay, you guys are out of time now. Thank you all very much, by the way. Appreciate the opportunity. It's kind of fun. I didn't realize what I was doing and what about. So it takes me a chance to step back and think about this, too. All right, somebody get this mic, or I'll go home with it. I'll be